Now let us talk about Excel templates. As we have already seen, if you go to File, you will be able to find some pre-built templates from which you can choose as per your requirement. But you also have the option to create a custom or personalized templates, and let us look at how we can do that. So for that, I have opened a new Excel workbook. Now one way to do this is to first select any ready-made template. So say I select the teacher's to-do list and then click on Create here. This opens up a new workbook with the same name as the template, Teacher's To-Do List. And now you can make some changes to it. For example, if I do not want the date columns, I can delete these. Let me undo this. Or if I want to change the heading of any of the columns or make any other changes, like changing any text, graphics or formatting, I can also do that. And then save this as a new template. Another way is to create a new template from scratch. For that, I have opened a new workbook and I will create a template for my day-to-day expenses. So I will name the first column header as date, another column for description, then the expense type, and then the amount. And just so that I can see the headers properly, I'll double click at the end of these columns so that it expands as per the length of the header. Now I will do a Ctrl+Shift right arrow to select all the cells and make the text bold and make the cell color as light green. Then I would like to add border to the cells in my table. So I will select all the cells under these column header, or I can also select only a few cells where I want to apply the border. So once selected, I will go to the borders option under fonts and then select all borders. So it has now added borders to all the cells. Next, I will create a list for the type of expenses. So I'll type in category wise expenses. Under this, I'll add home for any expenses related to home, kids, then grocery, electricity, and miscellaneous. So let us assume that these are the types of expenses that I incur every month. I'll change this to expense type just to avoid any confusion because that is the column header that I have here. Now I want the cells under the column expense type to have entries only from this list of expense types. For this, what I can do is I can format these cells as list. So I will select this cell, go to the data tab and then click on data validation here and then select data validation. In the pop-up box here, I will change the validation criteria to list. That means only allow values from a list. Then I must define the source of the list, that is from which list or range of cells should the value be allowed. So once I click over here, I can go and select the range and then click on OK. So now you can see that there is a drop down on the cell here, and if you click here you can see that whatever is defined under the expense type on the right is what appears here, and you can fill the cell by selecting only one of these. So anytime you add anything to the list, you can include that as well in the drop down. And if you modify anything here, say for example, I change kids to school, the same gets reflected here. So it makes sure that we have the exact same entry that we have here. Why do I want it the exact same way? Because I now want to define a condition in the column next to this to calculate the sum of these expenses category wise. To understand it better, let me add some entries to this table. So on 1st January 2023, I bought a chair. So I will mark it under the expense type home, and the amount for this is 500. Then on January 2nd, I buy vegetables. Now I don't see a drop down here since I did not copy the formatting of the cell above. So let me do that for all the cells in this column. So I will click on this cell, go to the Home tab and then click on Format Painter and then paste the formatting on the required cells. Another way is to copy the cell C2 and simply paste it across cells like this. Now you can select the cells and press delete to clear the current entries in the cells, but it will still retain the drop down to select from. So for the second one, I'll click on the drop down and select grocery and the amount spent is 75. The next expense is on the same day, so I will do a Control D to copy the above cell, and let's say that on that day I had to pay the school fee. So the expense type will be school and say the amount is 150. And then on January 3, 2023, I buy cereals. Under the expense type, I will start typing G and you can see that it has automatically filled in grocery for me. The amount spent, let's say, is 50. Now, if you try typing in something else that is not in the list, you will get an error message saying that this value does not match the data validation restriction defined for this cell. So I will cancel it. Next, as I said, I want to calculate the total expense for each category. So every time a new line item is added, Excel will automatically calculate the sum and update the total expenses here. So I will start with an equal to sign and then SUMIF. The SUMIF function is used when you want to calculate the sum based on certain conditions. Now the first argument for the SUMIF is range. Range here is the expense type, which is column C. Comma. The next is the criteria. That means the value in the range should match the entry in cell I7. Comma. And then the sum range. That is the values that need to be added, which is under the amount column. So I will select column D. Then close the bracket and press enter. So it has now calculated the sum of all the entries under the expense type home. Now I want to copy this formula in the cells below it. So I'll just drag this down. You can see that there is no entry for electricity and miscellaneous and hence the sum is 0. For grocery, you can see that it shows 125, which is the sum of these two instances, 75 and 50. So with each entry in the table, the total expense across each category will keep on getting updated. Now to save this workbook as a template, go to the File tab, click Save As, give it a name. I will name it as My Personal Budget. Next, select the Excel template file format, that is .xltx. You can see that the template is getting stored in my OneDrive personal folder. You must make sure that this destination address is same as the default template location of this application. Now to confirm that, go to Options here. Under the Excel options, click on Save. Here you can see that the default location is the custom office template inside the Documents folder, which is different from where our template is getting saved currently. So what I'll do is, I'll copy this location, close this, and again go to the Save As option. Give the name. Change the extension. And then I'll change the destination location. So I'll paste here the location that I copied earlier and then save it. Now I'll open a new workbook and let me close this file. Now if I click on File and then on New, you can see that my personal budget is listing under the templates. If we hadn't changed the location that we did just now, it will not get listed here. So these are the recent templates that we accessed. Apart from that, if you go to the Personal tab here, you will be able to see all the templates that we create over here. Right now we have only one, so it shows only that. Now if I click it, it opens the template that we just created. So you can clear the entries in the table here and then add the expenses for the next month. Now here are some additional tips for creating custom templates in Excel. You can use the template wizard to help you create a template. You can save your templates in a central location so that they are easy to find and use. You can share your template with other users by saving them as a file attachment or by uploading them to a file sharing service. And here are some examples of custom templates that you can create in Excel. You can create a contact list template that can be used to store contact information for your customers or clients. You can create a to-do list template that you can use to keep track of your tasks. A project plan template that can be used to track the progress of your projects. A report template that you can use to create reports for your colleagues or clients, and the list is endless.